Lakini bangi ni kitu ya maana, manake tukiwa nayo watu hawatakuwa na njaa. Kenya tuko na 44 million people. Ikiwa gunia moja ni 3.4 million, 3.2 million US dollars. Tukiuza magunia 1,000 ya bangi, si kila Mkenya atakuwa na milioni kwa mfuko. Hata kwenda kukopa tena. Takuwa na bangi mingi tunauza, kila mtu wako na shamba yake. Unaweza hata kupanda bangi hapa kwa nyumba. Unaweza hata kupanda maua. Hii maua yenye napandwa City Council hii yote sijui ni ya urembo. Hiyo yote itakuwa ni bangi. They could blindfold me and take me to City Mortuary at night. I didn't know first it was City Mortuary. So that could be like maybe at 3 in the morning, and then I could open up my eyes and I see dead bodies everywhere. If you look at what President Uhuru Kenyatta has done with the Kenya Meat Commission, it is now working, something that was a pillar of corruption for many, many years. So equally, I'll remove men from the barracks to come and have them work like they do in the United States to build the economy of this country.
Hello and welcome to Tuko Siasa. This is a new segment. It's a political segment where we will discuss and dissect political matters with the political players in Kenya, even as we build up to the general election in August this year. My name is Kingori Wangeshi. Remember to like, share and subscribe for more videos like the one that we are just about to have. And I'm privileged today to have the first presidential aspirant on this show. He is saying that he needs to move from the lecture halls to the corridors of power at the House on the Hill, State House. I'm talking about a person who says he needs to take the country back to its roots using his party, Roots Political Party or Roots Party of Kenya. Here now is the long and short of it between Professor George Luchiri Wajakoya and myself. Professor.
Yes, sir.
Karibu sana.
Asante.
Welcome to
Kenya.
Kenya.
Man. Yes.
Is that how you say it?
Yeah, man.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is it okay if we called you Ras Prezo?
Whichever name you're comfortable with, man, I'll go with it.
Okay.
Yes.
So now, Professor Wajakoya, have you ever ran for any political seat in Kenya? Because we just heard one day that we have Professor Wajakoya is running for president.
I've never run for any political field. This is my first attempt on the presidential seat.
We have a lot to discuss and why you decided to run for the presidency. But first, we would like to know you, much more about you, how you grew up and how you found yourself in law.
Thank you very much for coming in my office. I'm blessed. And I never knew that one day I would have an office because I used to live in the streets. I was born 61 years ago in Western Matungu. I'm a Luhya. My parents split, so many years down the line I had to look for greener pastures, and my parents split when I was 3 years old. So I was brought up by my grandmother and father, who are very strict Christians. My grandfather was a village catechist. But things went so hot for me, and I found myself in Nairobi, where I was a street boy for many, many years, until one day, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, as you can see my books of worship there, they took me to the temple in Ngara Road. Then I became a devotee, which means a priest, or a pastor, let me call it that way.
In Hindu.
Where I became acquainted with the Hindu language, one of the oldest languages in the world, Sanskrit, which is actually part of the Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is the Bible of Asians. Them they call it Bhagavad Gita. So I read Sanskrit translations and I became a preacher in Hindu, teaching to many Indians who used to come to the temple. Then Mr. Ramlal Sharma of City High School, the then proprietor of City High School, which is now Pioneer International University, became so much accustomed to me, and he asked me whether I wanted to go to school. So he took me to his school, City High School, where he gave me a small room at the back of the hall. and bought me a mattress, and he asked me to be happy and also to work as a guard on Fridays and also to help sweeping in the school. So he literally brought me up, and after Form 4, I had also become friendly with J.J. Kamodo, who was by then Minister for Higher Education. Dr. Ngeno was the Minister for Basic Education. Mm-hmm. And because Mr. Sharma owned one of the best private schools in the country, he was the chairman of Kenya Private Schools Association. So by virtue of that, they were friends with Kamodo, and Kamodo used to come in, and I used to do kierere, go around Kamodo's car, to clean it, and then he used to call me Kamwana. So anytime Kamodo came in and he didn't find me, mm-hmm. he had to ask where I was.
Where is Kamwana?
Yeah, so the day the results came out, the Form 4 results came out, he came and I showed him my results, and he asked me what I wanted, and I said I wanted to go to school. So the following day I got a letter, and I went to Mumias High School. After that, I taught as an untrained teacher. I taught in City High School, I taught at Raval Secondary School, and I also taught at Shikoti Girls in Western Province. I joined the police because I didn't get enough grades to go to the university. Mm-hmm. And then after that, I was posted to Pangani Police Station. Then I went to Kasarani, and from Kasarani, I joined the National Security Intelligence, which was special branch by then.
Now that you've mentioned you worked with the special branch, mm-hmm. then, mm-hmm. We could call it now the National Intelligence Service. Mm-hmm. You played a role after the death of the cabinet minister, mm-hmm. Robert Ouko. Mm-hmm. What was that?
I was an investigatory officer. Because after his murder and what have you, the intelligence also wanted to keep a tab on what might have happened. So I was in charge of the group that was investigating mm-hmm. the death of Ouko.
Yes. And after working with the police force, do you think that now has prepared you? Because if you become the president, you'll mm-hmm. be the commander-in-chief. Mm-hmm. And at that time, you saw what happened when a cabinet minister died or was killed. Mm-hmm. What preparation has that journey given to you to a point now you will be the commander-in-chief?
Very good question. It is out of that death of Dr. Ouko that I'm here today. Because when it happened, and I don't want to go into graphic details because the case is still in court in the UK, mm-hmm. we found out a lot of things. But then some people wanted us to cover. But because of the technical aspect of it, we could not translate what was not there. We translated what we had through the spools, the listening devices. So when it reached a point where the system came to realize that we were aware of who the main culprits were, and then they started transferring those who were in that place. Some of them, I think, were killed, and I was put in jail. And my detention was very worrying. Maybe that's why I'm very strong in what I say. They could blindfold me and take me to City Mortuary at night. I didn't know first that it was City Mortuary. So that could be like maybe at 3 in the morning, and then I could open up my eyes and I see dead bodies everywhere. That's why probably that would tells you that I don't eat meat. Of course, I was not eating meat from the time I was a priest in Hare Krishna, but what I saw up to today, it is like, it shocked me in a way. Probably the main intention was to make me mad or to run mad. And that's why I developed eczema, because of the chemicals, which I still suffer from until today. The US Embassy had gotten wind of it. And that's how I was whisked away by, I think I was released in whichever circumstances. And then the US Embassy organized for me to be flown out of the country. The moment I reached the UK, the media took me over. And that's why I'm very much agitating for the media, the scribes to be paid properly, because you saved my life actually. The independent television news, the Guardian newspaper, the tabloids took on my story, because I think the media was already aware of what had happened because they were following up Dr. Ouko's case. Mm-hmm. And probably somebody in the embassy might have tipped them. So when I reached there, I was picked up by a person known as Ian Glover James. He was a senior editor with the independent television news. And the Guardian was there. People like the former MP for Hempstead. She was an actress, I can't remember her name. Glenda Jackson, who was a member of parliament, was also informed of what had happened. Because when I was taken to London, I was taken into a safe house, which was under her jurisdiction. And as the rules are in Britain, any person of that caliber, wherever is taken, the member of parliament has to be informed. I think probably it might have been her who triggered my interviews, and if you check the archives, you'll see lots of stories that I was interviewed, and the media from that time kept a tag on me. Then after that, 2 weeks after that, the newspapers in Kenya, media in Kenya was showing headlines. The runaway policeman was a madman, blah, 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 that propaganda, what have you, here in Kenya. Mm-hmm. If you go to Nation, you'll find all those things that are there. But however, when I was interviewed, most politicians became very much interested. Then Julie Ward's father, Mr. John Ward, whose daughter had been murdered here, also tried to reach out to me with Mr. Richard Doldon, who was by then the London correspondent of the Nation newspaper. They reached out to me. They wanted to find out what might have happened. Could it be the same thing that might have happened to their daughter? And it was through that time that now I was linked up with the British system, and my names were changed to George Walker. I was put in safe houses. Then after some time now I was told, you know what, you're given you a refugee status, now you can move around. Mm-hmm. But then they took me from there and took me to a house of the homeless in Camden Town. Arlington House is on Camden Town in Camden City in London, where we had the old Irish agitators for their independence who had become very old and retired, had been put in that house. So I was put in that house as a buffer zone so that people may not know where I was, because it was an establishment of Trumps and Irish, with those who work with dogs. So I stayed there. Then now I was on my own. That's when I got involved with the Nigerians. Because I have looks like a Nigerian, mm-hmm. They thought I was one of them. So I talked to one and he said, Oga, you don't have to live here. I want to show you how to live life. Mm-hmm. That's the man who took me to the grave. He used to be a grave digger supervisor. So my first job was as a grave digger, and I was taught how to do it. I went through induction. Then I became a grave digger. Mm-hmm. It was really very rough, very difficult. I started working, started paying my fees. The first year I flopped because of the changeover of everything. I couldn't know how to make my bearing. But the Nigerians kept me going. I lived a lonely life, very difficult life, and I went through hell. That's why I toughened up. And the skills I got in the police, and the skills I got as a street boy, they really now held me up. And I became a man, let me put it that way. I became a survivor, and I never became sick. I never saw where the hospital was. And from that time, I never gave up. After my Bachelor of Laws, I went and I did my master's, and I became now an academic playboy in UK. I loved nothing more than education. We formed a very formidable group to fight the dictatorship here. And that's how we formed a tie we brought in Koigi Wamwere, Dennis Akumu, Richard Leakey, and Raila Odinga several times. It's only that Raila forgets people who have helped him. I think at wherever he sits now, he must be very guilty, because he knows what we did for him. He knows the financial contributions we did. He knows how we gave ourselves up to safeguard him not to be killed in London. He knows how we protected him, and he knows how we protected his father. But coming here, the guy doesn't know who we are. So probably that's what informs you as to why we had to make other political parties. Because we are not welcome to these people. They forget so quickly. And that's why I give credit to Ruto. I may not like Ruto because of the way he behaves, but Ruto does not forget the people he has been with. Ruto does not forget the people who have helped him reach somewhere. But these other people, no. But of course, I'm not going to say that I'm supporting Ruto. I like that aspect of him, helping those who have been with him in whichever difficult circumstances.
How would you compare the three administrations? Let's talk about the second one, President Moi, the third one, President Kibaki, and now the fourth one, President Uhuru Kenyatta. How would you compare the three administrations?
Kibaki administration comes out to be the best. The second and mostly the best one was Kenyatta one. Because during Kenyatta one's time, the country was free from debt. The country had free Medicare. It had the best Medicare policy that Cubans came to borrow from it. And NHS Britain borrowed from Kenya at that particular time. Singapore borrowed even money to go and start their NHS program in 1966 from Kenyatta 1. During Kenyatta 1's administration, education was really free. Kibaki borrowed the leave, but Kibaki was hindered because of power sharing. But Kibaki's administration now is the one that opened up the economy. And I'm a Kibaki. Let me label myself as a pro-Kibaki in terms of economic development. And had we had Kibaki, right from independence up to now, this country would have been wherever, because he was even the Minister for Economic Planning in Kenyatta government, which means that whatever was happening during that particular time, it was Kibaki. And I wonder why this madness comes from. If I was truly to reflect in my memoir, apart from this constitution that I would like to abrogate it, Kibaki would have been allowed to put this country into where it was. This issue of 10 years, 5 years, of course, is good, limited by the constitution. Kibaki would have been, had Kibaki been the president of this country for more than 20 years, this country would be a superpower.
Okay. Prof, umesoma. Uko na degrees ngapi?
Mimi sijui. Because I'm still doing my second PhD. Unaona hiyo? I can just count the schools I've gone, then we can find out how many diplomas and degrees I have. You want me to count?
Yes, please.
University of Burundi, French. University of Wolverhampton, Bachelor of Laws degree. University of London, School of Oriental and African, that's Masters. University of Warwick, that's Masters. York University. And then I went to World University Service, University of Baltimore, American Heritage University, Maastricht University, Riara University, University of Nairobi. Recently, I graduated last December. Now, if you want to mention colleges, they're also there. But these are first-class universities, yes, that I attended physically.
Yes.
Then I also have Walden. Yeah, last year I got 2 caps on my education. I got Master of Philosophy in Law from Walden. Having excelled on my PhD, they had to give me that. It's there, I'll show you if you want. And then I also graduated from University of Maastricht, Nairobi University, diploma in migration from University of Nairobi on 17th of December. And now I'm waiting to graduate from a PhD this year.
Yes.
And then I'm continuing.
Prof, what motivated you to run for presidency?
Well, that's a good question. A lot of you could have asked me, why couldn't you run as an MCA?
Yes. Why wake up one day and decide I'm going to run for the presidency?
Yes.
Yet we have other seats that could have introduced you to the political games, or so to say.
To be honest with you, it's not that I have to be the president of this country. But circumstances have forced me to do things that I would not have wanted to interfere with my academia. If you look at the crop of leadership that we have, apart from Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta and a few others, I see turncoats. I see turncoats today, and what I mean by turncoats are people who have who are not even fit to be there. I see the kind of players in politics today, and I'm like, I am a Kenyan, I'm 35 years old, I've gone to school, I don't need to join politics, but I'm forced to join politics to find out what we can do to save this ailing economy. And that's why we need plastic surgery in this politics. We need somebody to come in and just move the economy to another level, move the youth to another level, and ask these people to follow morals and ethics. Because why would you be stealing and then you use the same money to conduct rallies, to buy Kenyans out of it, and then cheat them for 5 years, and you don't have any policies?
Prof, and your entry into politics, and that is the Kenyan politics this year, the most significant thing that stands out is that you are not conventional. You've come up with a policy to say that you will legalize marijuana once you become the president. Why would you want to do that?
Kenya is in debt. The first one for economic development because of the nascent of marijuana, not for smoking, but for export, because of its current market value, to pay off the Chinese debt first and foremost, and to build our infrastructure. Put about 1,000 or 7,000 bags of cement each of marijuana. I think each is about $3.2 million, and tell them, you know what, go home. We pay you or we sell it in Canada, and we ask the Canadian government to pay them directly because it's painful. Gunia moja maragwe, sijui ni 3,000 4,000. Gunia moja mahindi 3,000 4,000 6,000. Gunia moja makaa 1,000 fulani, lakini gunia moja ya bangi, one sack of hemp is 3.2 million US dollars. Canadians last year got 484 billion because they legalized. Second pillar of my development is the rights of employees and work ethics. We would like to produce a 24-hour working economy with 8 hours shift, 4 days a week. The world is doing that today. In a 24-hour working economy, in an 8-hour shift, we shall have double job production, and the morality will be, the morals will be there. Some countries have already adapted there.
Now, you've talked about working in the 24 hours economy. Is that what happens in the diaspora? And that question, please also connect with the relationship of the country and the people who work abroad.
Yes, that's why I want to scrap KOTU. Actually, marijuana should be number 2 on my list. KOTU will be number 1. I'll scrap that thing, KOTU. Scrap it for good. I'll go the Margaret Thatcher way. Our Kenyan workers abroad, the Middle East, those who go and work for Arabs, how many of them die every day and they are buried outside? How many of them have problems outside? What is the difference between a Kenyan worker in Kenya and a Kenyan worker abroad? And secondly, we are going to have a 2-week payment plan. Wacha watu walipwe after every 2 weeks. People are living in Fuliza.
Who is your running mate?
Right now, I cannot name the running mate because we are still interviewing them. But definitely, it will have to be a lady.
Looking at what is happening in the country now, between President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy, Dr. William Ruto, how will you treat your deputy?
I'll sack him.
You will sack him or her?
My friend, I am the president. You are my deputy. The constitution gives me powers. I'm not a lame duck president. Museveni just changed his vice president the other day. That's why I want to suspend this constitution, because of that mayhem that was written to bind the two. Office of the president, my friend. When Trump won, the Democrats had to congratulate him as a president. The word president is not something to play with, because you are mandated by over 44 million Kenyans to sit in that office. Don't joke around. Ruto should have resigned. If Kenyans do not elect for change, people like us for a change, they are going to be in very deep problems after 9th of August. Trust me.
So now, you know, as we are, you might not become the president if you're not in a coalition. Would you want to be in a coalition with anyone? Before
the election, I'd rather be in a coalition with Satan, because I already know that Satan is a bad person. He'll treat me badly. I'm better off going to hell and making a coalition with hell, because that means that I will not be advocating what I'm standing for. Why would one person go for a coalition? Have you ever asked yourself that question? It's because of his tummy. I want power. We want to share. What about the 40 million Kenyans? So I'm better off with even 1% of the votes or no vote and stay this way than doing a coalition. But after the elections, I think I can come up with a better coalition on my terms. Because what we want is to do real things. Men do real things, not this way.
How is your family like?
I have one wife. My father had many wives. My brothers have many wives. But I'm stuck with one woman. I don't know what to do. And I think she's my best friend. I have children. They're grown up. They're born and raised in the US. In the UK. My wife works in the airline industry. She was born and raised in the US. My firstborn daughter is here, Wangoi, whom we got during those days when Namnayo. I love her. And that's the family I know of.
Okay, Prof, why do you have 2 watches?
3 watches.
Oh, there are 3?
Yeah.
Why?
One is the time where my wife is. This one is just normal. And this one has a lot of things, temperature and what have you. And when I'm going swimming, I remove this, put here, and then jump into water. It's water resistant.
And that is you?
That's me. I don't drink, I don't smoke, but at least I have some pleasure in what I wear.
So you don't smoke. How do you interact with marijuana, with bang, that you want to legalize?
I'm looking at the economic part of it. I look at marijuana as a commodity that will help this country to come out of its knees.
You've said that you have pleasure in what you wear. Talk to us about your headgear.
Yeah, this one is me. Now this is real McCoy. Durak is won by madmen. Let me put it that way.
Are you a madman?
Probably everyone is mad. People were agitating for something. African Americans were the first to wear this on slave ships, to identify themselves and to say we are together fighting the racist colonizers. For me, I'm wearing it, not because I'm following what African Americans have, but I'm crying tears for my country. And I'm asking all Kenyans to go to UDA, register with the UDA, register on condition that you are given a wheelbarrow. And once you come, you can resign from the portal. Then keep that one at home.
And come and join Roots Party.
No, let them keep at home. If we take over, we shall legalize marijuana and we shall have means of transport. Lakini bangi ni kitu ya maana, manake tukiwa nayo, watu hawatakuwa na njaa. Kenya tuko na 44 million people. Ikiwa gunia moja ni 3.4 million, 3.2 million US dollars. Tukiuza magunia 1,000 ya bangi, si kila Mkenya atakuwa na milioni kwa mfuko. Sasa tutakuwa Waarabu, tuwe tukifanya kazi yetu na kulala, alafu watu wengine waje watufanyie kazi. Saizi Mwarabu anauza mafuta, na ndio naona Wakenya wanaenda kumfanyia kazi. Manake uko na mafuta, yeye kazi yake hakuna pesa mingi sana analala. Wakenya pia tutakuwa hivyo. Transform ourselves without reliance. Hata kwenda kukopa tena. Takuwa na bangi mingi tunauza, kila mtu wako na shamba yake. Unaweza hata kupanda bangi hapa kwa nyumba. Unaweza hata kupanda maua. Hii maua yenye inapandwa City Council hii yote sijui ni ya urembo. Hiyo yote itakuwa ni bangi. Tuna harvest hiyo tunauza. Watu wanasikia mzuri. Hakuna mambo ya bodaboda tena. Kila mtu atakuwa na gari yake.
Hai, professor. Na hiyo yote utafanya ukiwa president?
Yes. Na nitauliza Wakenya na wataona. Botswana wamefanya, Uganda wamefanya. Nchi zingine zinatoroka na sisi tunabaki hapa. Tunangojea Mungu. Hata Yesu mwenyewe ile mafuta ilitumiwa na ule mama ya kumpaka ile mafuta walisema ilikuwa very expensive. Ilikuwa imetengenezwa kwa bangi. Mlisikia Yesu akisema hii ni baya.
The other pillars of your administration manifesto.
Number one, we talked of marijuana. Two, we have spoken of employment. The other one is Medicare. Medicare for pregnant mothers, whether working or not. Widows, children, whether their fathers are working or not. And the people with disability. When it comes to education, parents will have a right to choose the kind of education. Yeah, they will have a right to choose what kind of education their children want. Because the right to education is not compulsory or mandatory. It's a privilege. It's like a driver's license or a passport. Then we shall also look into agriculture. Let us actually look into what we can produce faster. Like hemp. Hemp only grows for 6 months. And what I would also like to look into is men and women in the defense forces, military, security. One of the key pillars that I would like to deviate from, I would like to have the Kenya Army officers, Air Force, Defense Forces. I will have to incorporate them into the civil service. I will have to bring them from the barracks to help build our roads. I will also take the entrepreneurship. I will have to put that to the army officers, because wherever they are, they do a good job. If you look at what Mbadi has done to transform Nairobi County, whereas there was a lot of outcry, oh, he's an army man, he has to be in the army. But the discipline he has in the army has transformed Nairobi. If you look at what President Uhuru Kenyatta has done with the Kenya Meat Commission, it is now working, something that was a pillar of corruption for many, many years. So equally, I'll remove men from the barracks to come and have them work like they do in the United States to build the economy of this country. Therefore, we shall be cutting less on reliance on foreign workers who come in. And I'll also make sure that I streamline immigration. I'm an expert on immigration. I advise other countries on immigration. We shall decentralize the immigration department to counties, and we shall have work. Of course, they have decentralized, but we shall have to diversify and make legislation to give timelines. I'll restore the image of police officers to where it was when Moi was the president of this country. And I'll also reintroduce the forced standing orders. Because right now, the police officers' hands are tied. They're just transferred anyhowly. And even for journalists, that's now where my heart is. This is a fourth estate. This is the most important fabric of society because of dissemination of information. Without them, we would not have had democracy in this country. Yet, when you look at media monopoly and media ownership, we pay media personnel, we remunerate them well, we give you the equipment, we give you subsidies to work properly because you are on the same wavelength as members of parliament. They make legislation, you make them make legislation. So the media, if you go to the media in the UK today, they are a very proud class. You cannot reach them because they are properly remunerated and they love what they are doing.
Talking of media, Professor, this is your camera. Please ask for votes from the viewers.
Ladies and gentlemen and my fellow countrymen, don't take me to be a madman. I'm just here. I was born down there, nimekuwa chokora, na nimekuja pia nikawa mamen. Hata nikikaa hapa nimekalia ofisi yangu. Munipigie tu makofi, but vote for me if you want change, and we shall change this country. Otherwise, mkitaka kwenda kule kwingine, mimi sikatai, but asante sana. Just your vote for president to make a difference so that you can change. Hata kama tutachukua 2% of the national vote or 3% of the national vote, we shall be able to engage into the determination of your future. Thank you.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That is Professor George Luchiri Wajakoya. He says he wants to take our country back to its roots using Roots Party of Kenya. And I pray that you've listened to him, you make your judgment on his non-conventional ways of delivery when he becomes, and I should say, if and when he becomes the president in August 2022. This has been Tuko Siasa with me, Kingori Wangeshi. Remember, the journey to 1 million subscribers is on. Therefore, like, share, and subscribe. Tell a friend and a friend, even your frenemies, to subscribe on Tuko. Thank you. See you next time.